I mean, there's one thing to say, well, okay, I drove down there, walked over, looked out, came back. But how do you account for the fact if somebody springs up? Because Sue had to become aware after they found this picture of her car. She had to become aware that perhaps other witnesses might come out and say, yeah, I remember seeing that parked in front of my house for like 4 hours the other night. Whatever. She becomes aware of this. So she cooks up this story, which is, okay, I walked all the way down there, realized I'd forgotten the
forgotten key
walked
scenario.
all the way back home, walked all the way back down, and that would account for the car being there for this very long period of time, parked in that place where it shouldn't have been. And that would be enough time to do what she intended to do, which is go move the body and get rid of it.
Which is why you always leave your cell phone at home and you use a bicycle to get to the crime scene.
Yeah, I tie my cell phone to a raccoon's tail. And
in this case, it would have been a Tasmanian devil's tail, which is the Australian raccoon.
Well, so what else? If she's the one person who, if she needed to get to the Four Winds, using the Four Winds dinghy, would actually know where that dinghy belonging to the Four Winds was moored. And also, the other thing is that if somebody else, like say, used another boat, some other killer, to go out to the Four Winds to commit murder, which is possible, I guess, then why did somebody the very same night, somebody unties Sue's dinghy and throws the rope inside to cast it adrift? Well, that's quite a major coincidence when you think about it.
Yeah.
That this all happened. And I don't think this crime was well planned. I mean, it's entirely possible, I think, that it was a crime of passion, that they were having an argument. Sue picks up a blunt object and just bashes Bob over the head with it because she snaps and hits him. Didn't really actually go down there intending to murder him in cold blood.
Right.
And the reason I think that is it's just not a well-planned crime.
No.
I mean, the idea of murdering him below decks, leaving all that blood evidence down there and everything, and having to go through the huge hassle of hauling his body up and getting it into that dinghy.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have, if I had been her, I would have lured him into the dinghy and then bashed him over the head.
I actually think she might have actually hit him with the fire extinguisher.
Yeah, maybe.
Which would,
maybe. That would account for it being missing, too. It's a murder weapon.
And also, convenient thing to weigh somebody down with.
Yeah. Although, again, murder tip, fire extinguishers, even when they're heavy, they have a big old fat air bubble right in the middle of them.
Yep.
Don't use a fire extinguisher. Use lead. Yeah, use lead.
Use a wrench. Just a wrench.
Cast iron, something,
because cast iron is so handy to laymen these days.
Actually, you can get cast iron cheap. Go out on Craigslist and buy a used weight set, an Olympic weight set,
Yeah.
And they're just dirt cheap. And
it's super easy to move around in your dinghy, too.
True.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes up a lot less space than concrete. And unlike concrete, little bits of it don't crumble off.
Yep.
And also it's a lot denser than concrete, less buoyant. So, cast iron all the way.
Okay.
Get rid of bodies.
All right.
Yeah, but
become Mr. Universe and dump a body all in one purchase.
Yeah. So and this is one of the things I do. I think. Well, how would I have done the crime? And that's it. Again, first off, wait till right after dark. Lure Bob into the dinghy by pretending not to be able to get it started or something. Hit him over the head. You've already got 200 pounds of cast iron stashed at the bottom of the dinghy. So, and you head on out towards sea. Tie Bob to the dinghy and to the cast iron weights. And then when you're far enough out towards sea, you puncture the dinghy. Again, pull close to shore, puncture the dinghy so you can swim to shore. Head the dinghy towards deeper water and swim to shore. And then, of course, you've thoughtfully hidden a moped somewhere nearby to get you home. And voila. That's the way I would have committed this murder. Sue obviously just doesn't think about things quite the way I do.
So we think Sue did it.
I think Sue did it. I don't know what you guys think.
I think Sue did it.
I think Sue did it.
Well, listen, I realized that we glossed over a theory in a theory, which is the Bob died by accident theory.
Yeah.
So your theory, Bob died by accident, and then she tried to hide it, excludes the Bob died by accident and disappeared by accident, and she's just a ding-dong and got herself in trouble. I mean, if he's working on... Okay, listen. I just thought about this, because it just kind of one of those things that happens to me every 4 or 5 stories. It clicks. My brain turns on.
Yeah.
If he's working on the boat, it's entirely possible that he could have hurt himself, which would have accounted for blood being sprayed around. He's working on the boat, which would explain why carpet tiles are pulled up and ladders are loose and stuff like that.
Okay.
And we've also seemed to have agreed that Bob is a bit clumsy because he she says he's bad at getting off the boat.
Well, she said that, but other people contradicted that, though.
Okay, but maybe he's not the best seaman in the world.
Yeah.
And at this point, he is bleeding, and he runs up onto the top of the boat and falls off the boat. I mean, it's entirely possible that he is then literally swept out to sea because he is outside of the marina. It's not as if his body's going to get trapped in underneath everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is possible that that what she said, though as dumb as it is the truth. Mm-hmm. And Bob hurt himself, sprayed blood all over, and then fell off the boat. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's really it, but it's possible. Just like everything else we've talked about, except the Tasmanian Devil, because that one's not right.
You don't like that one?
I know it's not real.
I didn't.
Because Taz never spins over water.
I don't even know if they. I don't know if they swim either. To be honest,
they
with
don't.
You. Yeah.
I don't. No. I think she killed him.
Yeah, I don't see any other way to. I'm surprised that this is as controversial as it is because there's just no other explanation. Even memory loss does not account for the strange story about walking down to the car twice in the middle of the night.
You would have remembered that, right? Like, there's at some point. Yes, memory loss, fine, whatever. Get confused about what store you were at and how blah, blah. But if you walked 8 frickin' miles in the middle of the night, you would remember that.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you would probably tell people that, like, immediately.
Well, and on top of that, it's not just the inconsistency of the stories or the memory loss or anything. It's the whole question of why the hell would she do it to begin with?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I really wanted to get the car. Well, why don't you just wait till morning and walk down then? I mean, go ahead and, go back to sleep and walk down. I mean, walking down there in the middle of the night made utterly no sense.
Yeah.
And again, the whole idea that somebody else killed Bob, well, that's fine. I can entirely see that. But then you got this amazing coincidence of all these strange things that Sue did that night.
Yeah.
She walked back and forth with the car.
But it's also
her dinghy comes untied. Even though she said she was never anywhere near it, she went out to the end of a pier to look for Bob, but a witness was right there, and she was not there at the pier.
Well, I mean, it's also, it's the timing with which she suddenly came forward with this stuff.
Oh, that's suspicious too.
Yeah, it's if you're only coming out with this stuff when somebody says, okay, but we saw your car, and she goes, oh, yeah, you're right, I remember. This is what happened. Obviously, you're lying about it. Obviously.
And that's the thing, is that if this truly is a miscarriage of justice, then all Sue needs to do is, give us an honest accounting of what the
may be ashamed to admit what she was up to. I mean, it's entirely possible that she didn't do what she said because she was with somebody else.
Yeah.
Maybe their relationship truly was done to her.
You would think
and
that,
she was fooling around, and that's why she left the car there overnight.
Fair enough, but if you are looking at 28 years in prison, aren't you going to be like, you're right, I lied, I was sleeping with this person, and they will corroborate my story?
How old was Sue at
55
at the time of her conviction? Okay.
Yeah.
There are people of that generation that admitting things like having an illicit affair, they would rather die first.
They weren't married.
But they might as well be, and there are people who they would rather die first than admit that they were going outside of socially acceptable behavior. There's been accounts of this before where it wasn't until the other person came forward to say, listen, dummy over there, he and I were doing it, so obviously he wasn't there, and he would still be denied. I mean, people do this stuff.
Okay.
It's flawed logic, but it happens.
Well, we just have to agree to disagree on that.
Oh, I'm fine with that.
She killed him.
She killed him, yeah. Yeah, she's like, so you...
and I feel Joe's cell phone is still strapped to a raccoon's tail.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, all you folks down under, you can go to sleep, stop worrying, stop arguing with one another. It's done. We've decided Sue's guilty. All right. Well, that's it. Another mystery solved. Anyway, if you got a theory of your own, or if I've mispronounced any words, if you're suing in prison and you want to argue with us, hey, that's fine. You can email us. The email is thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. So, yeah, tell us what you think. And we also have a website, thinkingsidewayspodcast.com, where you can download and listen to our episodes. We have merch. What else? We got episode lists.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's kind of a new thing. So definitely go check that out. We're also on iTunes, where you can download and listen, subscribe, give us a rating, give us a review, a good review. We like those. And, of course, you can stream us from God knows how many places. I don't
Everywhere.
know. Yeah, a lot of places. Google
Everywhere
Play.
in the internet.
Yeah. We're on social media. We're on Facebook, where we have a group and a page. So you want to like the page, join the group.
Correct.
Yeah, that's it. Don't friend the page. No, just join the group. And that's how you can hang out with us and all of our buddies. And there's lots of fun stuff happening out there. Yeah. We're also on Twitter, where we are Thinking Sideways without the G. And there's lots of fun stuff going on out there. Devin is posting all the time, like a
Constantly.
Yeah, I mean, you're like a fiend, like a Tasmanian devil almost.
That's true.
Oh,
I am.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
What else? We got a subreddit, which is kind of active, sort of. Yeah, I need to get out there actually more often. But there is a subreddit, Thinking Sideways, and of course, what else? We got merchandise. We got shirts, mugs, stickers, Zazzle and Redbubble stores there on the right-hand side of our website. Well, I guess that's about it. Time to wrap this thing up and head on home. You guys got any last thoughts, comments?
No, let's steam it out of here.
All right.
No, I can't even pun right now. I'm sorry.
No,
You're at the wheel.
Yeah.
Ah.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
This episode of Thinking Sideways is not brought to you by Hugs for Pugs. Instead, it's brought to you by Unexplained Mysteries. If you're a fan of our podcast, you probably enjoy mysteries, so you should definitely check out Unexplained Mysteries. Every week, the hosts explore the greatest mysteries of the past and present. From the building of Stonehenge to the subject of the Mona Lisa, there may not be a simple answer or explanation, just like us. But that doesn't mean there's nothing to talk about. Visit Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spot, basically anywhere you can find them. Definitely Parcasts, and it's Unexplained Mysteries. You know how to spell Unexplained Mysteries. That's probably how you found us. You searched Unexplained Mysteries Podcasts. Do the same thing, except for put Parcast, P-A-R, cast, and you'll find them. This episode is also brought to you by the audiobook edition of The Wife Between Us by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. Hear the Story listeners are calling wow, just wow, and one of the best audiobooks ever. Narrated by Julia Whelan, a twisty psychological suspense about a jealous wife is not what you think. Start listening now at macmillanaudio.com/wifebetweenus.
Thinking Sideways. Hey there. Welcome to another episode of Thinking Sideways. I'm Joe, joined as always by
Steve
and
Devin.
And this week, we're going to talk about another unsolved mystery.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the unsolved murder from 1984 of Catherine da Costa. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm going to mispronounce every word, as I said before.
Yeah.
It's a Swedish
I feel
mystery.
like anytime, we get a lot of suggestions for Swedish or otherwise kind of that area mysteries, and every time I feel like it's just because people want to hear us struggle.
I think so.
There's a lot of people who are very, very honestly willing to help us.
They are.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
It doesn't
the help
help
comes
that
over
much.
the internet,
Yeah, it
and
doesn't
therefore
help.
it does not help us pronounce
Yeah.
these words properly.
Nah.
Unless you're going to
usually,
send
yeah.
us actual audio files of you saying the words, it's not.
And that barely works.
Yeah,
I know.
true.
I know. Just as a small warning, there are some things that should be considered adult content, so viewer discretion is advised. And also listener discretion, too.
Thank goodness, because the viewership is really low.
These people are staring at their iPods going, what the hell?
Actually,
There are viewers.
listen, we are apparently on a run of this kind of story, because this is like the third or the
Keep
fourth
doing
in a
it.
row.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I hate to admit it, but stories like this are really easy.
Well, I'm telling you right now, next week, not going to have any warnings whatsoever.
That's
it's going to
good.
be the nicest, blandest story
It's going to
ever.
be wholesome.
Yeah, well, next week...
Or at least black and white.
Next week, the story is actually going to be about My Little Pony.
Yep.
Yeah.
By
Oh, no.
Steve. Yeah.
No,
Brony
don't
up.
even go there, though, because it gets... The My Little Pony fandom gets a little whatever.
Oh, does it get
Anyway,
weird?
sorry.
Okay, so let's start talking about this story.
Yeah, okay. All right.
All right,
Anyway,
Joe, so what do we got
sorry.
going on here?
Oh, yeah. So, Catherine da Costa. She was 28 years old when she vanished. That was June 10th, 1984, when she was last seen. She'd been drug addicted since high school, and was clear up to the end. Had a big problem with drugs, and so eventually,
Specifically heroin.
Yeah, and eventually
that was a rough one.
It sort of drove her into prostitution, and she was working at the time of her death in Stockholm, in an area of town that's called Malmskillesgatan, which is like kind of this business district apparently that all the prostitutes and went to, and their drug dealing was going on. That kind of, apparently they've cleaned that all up, and it's and of course it's vanished completely. No, it's moved somewhere else. But that's what the neighborhood was called in that time. She had moved around a little bit, struggled, as I said, with drugs. She moved to Portugal for a while, got married, had a kid. And then when she got back to Sweden, unfortunately, the child was taken away from her by social services. And by 1984, reportedly, her drug habit had gotten worse, which typically happens. You know.
They tend to get cyclical. Worse and worse.
Yeah, worse and worse. She had OD'd a few times, and she, of course, you need more drugs. That means you need more money. So she started taking on clients that the other women in the area would refuse. The guys who were the real sicko types, the violent ones and stuff. Yeah. So she started taking on a kind of riskier business.
It's always so sad. I feel like when people get stuck in that cycle, it's
yeah, it kind of is.
It's kind of like is it their fault? Is it not their fault? Who knows? But it's just like it's sad no matter what. So
obviously addiction's a big thing. It happens to the best of us. But she probably would have been better off going into rehab. I think I could say.
Yeah, it's an easy,
it is, but there's also totally easier said than done.
Yeah,
exactly,
it's easy to say that, but well, anyway, back to her disappearance. Apparently, she was last seen in Malmskillesgatan on June 10th, getting out of a client's car. 5 weeks later, that would be mid-July '84, some of her body parts were found in a plastic bag in a suburb of Stockholm near what's called the Karolinska Institute. Which is like a hospital.
It's a medical institute, right?
Like a medical institute. Somewhere nearby there. And then 3 weeks after that would have been early August, another garbage bag of body parts was found less than a mile away. And so they got most everything. They put her all back together, kind of, except for her head, which was never found.
There were some other bits.
I won't give you a detailed list.
Let's just call it specific gender organs.
Like bikini areas.
Yeah, there's that. And also some of her internal organs were never found either. I'm pretty sure, her being a heroin addict, I'm pretty sure they were not sold for transplants.
Probably
not, yeah. But her hands, luckily, were intact, and so they were able to ID her through her fingerprints.
The organs that were missing, were they the kind that you would transplant normally?
I have no idea what organs were gone, to be honest with you.
Oh, I thought it was like some intestines, which we just learned, apparently, that's like a thing, but probably not.
It can be transplanted after all.
A murder, but...
Yeah.
I thought it was just kind of these weird innocuous, like, why would they be missing organs, but maybe not.
I don't really know. That's a good question. I mean, in the whole dissection thing, there's probably, when you're busy cutting up the body, there's certain things that just sort of, and this is going to be gross, but probably just sort of fall out. And so, although at the same time, that makes no sense, because you would think you just stuff them in the garbage bags you're stuffing everything else into, right?
Well, but I mean, some of the other body parts that were missing seemed like, that seems more like intentional trophies. Yeah. As we're talking about, again, these like kind of bikini areas that were missing, that seems like a trophy keep for somebody versus, the organs. So if you are, you've got some stuff in a pile over there, maybe that just slipped in.
I don't know.
Or maybe out.
Or maybe the guy had hogs, and I don't know.
But then you would just feed all of it to the hogs,
wouldn't you?
You
would think you would, right?
They'll eat it all.
My hogs only eat the finest liver.
And intestines and breast and whatever.
Right, those bits.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, now that we've gotten through that. Oh, by the way, I wanted to thank Candace, who suggested this. I forgot.
Really, Candace?
Yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, sorry, Candace. I should have said something earlier instead of waiting till we were right in the middle of all the gross parts. But I do thank you for suggesting it, and I'm sure a lot of our other Swedish listeners have probably mentioned it too at some point. So Thanks to all of you, too. Well, anyway, it's, as you all know, it's one thing to murder somebody, but it's when you start chopping them up into pieces, well, that gets people's attention. Right?
Yeah.
That's another thing entirely.
Yeah, usually.
Some people would consider that to be beyond the pale.
Yep.
Yeah, and so this became a really big case in Sweden. And if you live in Sweden, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's apparently one of their biggest unsolved mysteries.
Well,
The cutting up murder?
Yeah,
especially in the mid 80s.
Yeah, and I guess we're more used to that kind of stuff these days with the internet